I need a solicitor? There's no legal requirement for you to obtain a solicitor either to represent you going through court proceedings or help you negotiate a matter in any type of family law area, for example, children procedures, divorce and financial remedy, cohabitation, anything like that. I often see people come to an agreement without the use of solicitors. I often see people who represent themselves in court. They're known as litigants in person. But I would always urge people to take legal advice and instruct a solicitor either to assist them with court applications, proceedings, or during voluntary proceedings. Why? I don't think there's a substitute for a good solicitor. I think they can be worth their weight in gold. I think often you'll find that you'll save money in the long run by instructing a solicitor. They will pick up on things that often people, through no fault of their own, might miss. Often, one of the most common pitfalls we see in the divorce and financial remedies sort of sector is the remarriage trap. So often people will rush to get the divorce done. They'll separate, and that'll be the end of it for them. And then they go and get remarried, and then something happens, and they want to come back to their ex for maintenance or some form of lump sum order, or to change the way the property, the former family home, was owned, and they can't do so because they have remarried, which bars them from making those applications for things like lump sum orders, property adjustment orders, and these sort of things. So you need to be able to deal with your finances at the time, and often a solicitor will help you to be able to do that because they might have picked up on that pitfall that you necessarily wouldn't have known was a pitfall. In court proceedings and in voluntary proceedings, family law has fairly basic principles, which often people will run with, and they'll not quite understand that there are some extremely complicated and technical elements that need to be looked into, adhered to, especially in court proceedings. It can be extremely fast moving, and especially when you're in court proceedings, court directions can be quite alien, quite complicated, and not necessarily something that someone who is not legally trained will be able to successfully and adequately adhere to. I often find that people who represent themselves in court, litigants in person, often really struggle to do so, and they can come off a lot worse and severely disappointed with the result of proceedings because they didn't take the time to even take a small bit of advice, or they've tried to run their case themselves, and they've stuck to their guns. They've taken a case through to sort of the end of the financial remedy hearing and come back extremely disappointed and upset because they haven't taken good legal advice. They haven't understood what a court is likely or could do. So what they have done is take the case too far, effectively, all of which could have been avoided if they'd taken early legal advice. Another reason I think it's really important to seek some form of representation is the emotional side of it. Family law, dealing with things like divorce upon finances, who children should live with, etc., anything like that is extremely emotional and can be extremely stressful. And solicitors are often very well placed to be an objective outsider. They can help you see things that you might be slightly blinded by. Do I need to be represented in court? Again, there's no legal requirement for you to have a solicitor or a barrister in the courthouse with you, but I think it's, again, always worth having it. It's worth the cost. I've seen people in court representing themselves completely fall apart and lose out. Judges are often sympathetic to people doing it themselves, but if you're up against an experienced barrister who this is their day job, you're most likely not going to do as well in court as if you'd had good representation with an experienced barrister. Take, for example, if you asked someone off the street to do your job, Will they do as good a job as you? Probably not. So it's the same as you trying to represent yourself in court. You're not going to do it as well as someone who does it day in, day out for their clients. And again, it's an extremely stressful and emotional thing to do, to go into court and represent yourself. What if I can't afford a solicitor or a barrister? So there are options available to you if you can't afford some form of legal representation. You can get commercial loans. You can ask the other side in the issue to help fund your costs. There are court applications that you can make for legal services orders where effectively the other side will be made to pay the costs. It's quite common in divorce and financial remedy proceedings where one party to the marriage will hold or have control over the matrimonial funds. And in those cases, we often encourage and assist the lesser moneyed spouse to obtain what is called litigation loan. There are litigation lenders who will actually loan money against the equity in, for example, the family home, and this will allow the party without liquid funds to level the playing field and obtain quality representation. If you need any assistance with any family law matters, please don't hesitate to contact our family team here at Clarkson Wright & Jakes.